BigHerc916. Positivity, motivation, never settle for average. You know how we do it over here. Is racism the problem or the excuse? You know, when I bring up things about Black excellence and calling out the narrative that not all Black people are thugs, boosters, stealing, gangsters, shooting, you know, they're not all the problems with what you see in the community. There's a handful. And just like I say, you can't judge everybody for everything that's happened in the past. You can't judge everybody you see for the present. I don't want to be grouped up with a bunch of individuals that are involved in nonsense. So I carry myself different. And the same way when you look at, you know, what's happened as far as in the past, you can't say everybody, because not everybody. And that's the problem, man. And these people who are controlling this narrative, they want us down here going back and forth, fighting with each other, creating divide, creating separation, breeding hate. And we got to get past that in order for us to grow and see that it's all about control at the end of the day. With those who have a whole lot, these people who are, you know, telling us to not turn on our water on certain days, and they got multiple palatial estates, and we got to wake up, man. And this OG right here really breaks it down. I've watched him on some other interviews, very articulate, very well spoken, and it's a shame we don't have more of our elder Black men and women with positions of excellence sharing their stories of what they went through, because it's lost, man. And a lot of it you're not going to find in the history books. Unless you grew up in certain households, you won't know about these stories. It's just not being told as it should. And so I feel it's my duty to share some of these stories when I come across them, because I really look up to older people who have been through way more than what I've been through. And it's just a level of respect. And I know today a lot of youngsters don't want to hear it. They don't have any respect. It's all about what they can do to you. And, you know, those aren't the ones that this is for. This is for the people who want to really get a message, who are looking for the positive in life, who are looking for a change in life. And they know they're not part of the problem, but they're part of the solution. And they want to do better, and they want their family.
Racism that is the cause of the present day challenges. When under segregation, we achieved. In 1943, Blacks were prohibited from being naval officers. Eleanor Roosevelt persuaded her husband to train them. So they selected 16 Black college-educated men for training. The Navy says, aha, we're going to give these Black cadets in 8 weeks what we give white cadets in 16, so they wash out. And these brothers found out what the deal was. They covered the windows in their barracks and stayed up all night and studied. And when they were tested, they scored in the 90th percentile.
Wow.
So then they said, well, they cheated. So they tested them individually. They scored in the 93rd percentile. 13 of them eventually became naval officers. They call them the Golden 13. You can look
Google
it up.
this?
I respond to people with evidence. The incarceration rates of Blacks from the turn of the century up to the 60s was under 25%. It was like 90,000 Blacks were in jail in 1960. That went up to 900,000 over the next 30 years. We looked at 6 major plantations to find out what the state of marriage was of slaves. 75% of those slaves had a man and woman raising children. The nuclear family continued to prosper in the face of segregation for 100 years. But all of that changed in the 60s with the poverty programs.
Lyndon Johnson?
Yes. Johnson came in. The social scientists who were pushing socialism on America, Cloud and Piven at Columbia, said if you disconnect work from income, then school dropout rates will increase, drug addiction, all of those things. And so what the government did was offer welfare as an alternative to a man in the house. As a consequence, that was supported by the Black Power movement. Also, the women's movement was anti-man. Welfare used to be stigmatized in the black community. But the federal government began to interpret it as reparations, so that more blacks came into the welfare system in the first 5 years of the 70s. Millions flooded into the system at a time when the unemployment rate was under 4%. Plus, the civil rights movement morphed into a race grievance industry, and many of those civil rights leaders became mayors and elected to public office, where we spent $22 trillion during that period on programs to aid the poor, where 70 cents of every dollar went not to the poor, but those who served the poor.
Amazing man. I've listened to his interviews on PBD, and I believe I've heard his interview on another podcast, but the way he breaks stuff down, and when he talks about how well off black people were during segregation compared to now, and well off in a sense of family values, work ethic, morals, values, togetherness as a community, night and day, man. Night and day. You know, it's sad when you see people watching the situation unfold, and instead of stopping or diffusing the situation, they pull their cameras out. And they cherish that because they want to go viral. You know, somebody gets hurt or something happens, and they go through that person's pockets or take their property from off their bodies while they're laying there. It's just disgusting, man. And I don't have anything to do with people like that. That's your choice if you want to live that life. You know, I said it before, but there's a deep separation that's being developed, and it's been going on in the black community. You have black people who want success and positive things in life, and they're not victims. They're not out making excuses. And then you have those who, you know, they pride themselves on certain acts and behavior. And when I speak on this, you know, you might call me whatever you want to call me, but I've been on both sides, so I could see, man. And I was like, man, how messed up was I in the head when I was doing that type of stuff? You know, when I was stealing out of stores and selling drugs and running around with pistols, you know, where is my mind at? And I think about like my lack of maturity, my embarrassment, because I was embarrassed, but I still felt like, you know, hey, man, I'm out here. I'm in the streets. You know, I had a mentality like, you know, F you, you know, I'm going to get it anyways. And I remember, like, whenever I went by my grandparents' house, they would always look at me, what I was dressed, what I have on, and wonder how I got that stuff. And then they would look at some of the friends I hung out with, and they would give me a look. And my grandma would just, it was sad, man, because she just look and shake her head. And before she passed away, she told me, she's like, man, you know, I prayed that you would change your life. And man, it broke me down, man. She was like really sad, man. She's like, to see you go to the pen and, you know, not knowing if I was going to see you again, and the way you were carrying on like that, you were raised better than that. And a lot of us were raised better than that. Some of you maybe not so much, but you know right from wrong. And then my grandfather, man, same way, man, that dude used to talk, you know, because you get old people be talking loud. They don't care if you hear them. They ain't got their hearing aid in. He be talking shit. And I'll be like, this old dude, man, I'll be like, man, look, man, I changed my life. But he was still talking shit until right before he passed, and then he kind of like, okay, you're on the right path. But he was the he was he was embarrassed by what I had become, and I had let him down, man. And a lot of you out there, maybe you have people who don't care about you, so you don't care about letting people down, and you don't mind making excuses. But these OGs had, if anything, a reason to say, "Well, man, I was dealing with this." But you youngsters out, you ain't went through that, man. You guys ain't been through shit. You get out and you talk crazy to police, man. Don't you know that there's a level of respect, regardless if you don't like the police, law enforcement, man? Be sensible. Your life is in their hands. I've been in multiple situations. I ain't never got out talking crazy. Oh man, get out my fable, man. What, man? Look, be compliant. Do what you got to do to get out of that situation and save your life. You guys are doing this wilding out shit, running, and then they shoot, and then whatever, and then they say, "Oh, I thought you had a gun." Why even put yourself in that position? And then the whole, oh man, it's the system, and 100 years, you didn't pick no cotton, man. You wasn't dealing with segregation where you had to go and drink water at the back of the restaurant. You couldn't go to the same bathroom. I know people that's been through that. I've talked to them. I got OGs I talked to, and they lived through that. OGs that's been to Vietnam. I got OG who went to Vietnam, was over there, picked cotton, lived in the South, dealt with racism, dealt with the Jim Crow laws, shooting out in Vietnam, came back, was doing his thing, got robbed, carjacked, shot again by somebody that looked like him, and now, is still alive, but just a mountain of information. And whenever I get a chance to talk to him, man, without stirring up all these old emotions and feelings, I try to pick his brain, man, because it's like I could learn from this person, man. And I'm in my 50s and I'm still learning. I want to hear the stories, man, so I could do better, so I can have a better level of gratitude and appreciation for where I'm at. Because I can say, oh, I went through this, man, but I didn't go through anything. And so as far as what he would compare with what he went through, I might have went through a few. You might have went through a few things. We all went through things in life, but the victim mentality. What this OG tells you, man. Look at what these guys accomplished. These military guys, these officers, man, and they had the back of you, and everybody was judging them. Oh, they're cheating. They can't be that smart. We are a lot smarter than we come off, and I know it because I've seen a lot of you guys. Once you get locked up in the pen, man, you get in there, you get your GED. Some of you guys go to a law library. You start learning how to shepherdize. You learn about the law. You become jailhouse lawyers. You help other people get out of jail. But you do all that after you done got a 30-year life sentence. Come on, man. Do better, bro. You ain't got to go to the pen to learn how to be an artist, a lawyer, an accountant, a real estate guy. You can study all that now and free yourself so you don't have to become a slave later in prison, man. So I'm just trying to lace you guys up. And I know a lot of times, you don't want to hear from me. You might think, oh, Big Hurt, bro, Sambo, Uncle Tom, whatever. And it's like, dude, man, look, man, I've been through, I'm not, super gangster or whatever, but I've seen my share, man. And one thing I realized is that I couldn't further myself until I took accountability. I couldn't blame my grandfather. I couldn't blame my grandma. I couldn't blame my mom. I couldn't blame lack of no dad. I couldn't blame, oh, I'm black. I couldn't blame because, at the end of the day, I was always told, study hard, educate yourself, dress proper, always look a person in the eyes, and, go through life knowing that when you put yourself out there and you work hard, some doors, yeah, you'll have things that might seem like they're not right, but you got to keep going and, build your legacy, man. So hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, share the channel. BigHerc916. We can do better, man. Stop making excuses. Officially, I only got one real spanking my entire life. My mom did the best a 14-year-old could do, raising me with love and instilling values that will last a lifetime. I was a straight A student and lived to make her happy. So how did I go astray? A horrible stepdad that stole my self-worth and invoked fear turned me into a person that I struggled to overcome. From skateboarding to selling drugs, gang banging in juvenile hall, I got caught the same way many young promising men get caught up. I struggled to find my identity, getting mixed up in shootouts, crime, and the adult entertainment industry. This roller coaster continued as I juggled college, hustling, and Hollywood, eventually catching a federal bank robbery case. I found redemption in prison while serving a 120-month federal sentence and came out a man on a mission. I became a social media influencer with over 500 million views on YouTube and a life coach mentoring people all over the world. This is my journey.
And pick you up a sticker for your car, or a patch, or a sticker for your laptop, or maybe a beanie, or read one of the many books that BigHerc916 has authored. You know how we do it.